I say someone like yourself with these bass forward ears would pick it out, but a lot of people wouldn't. He's doing his best, bless him, but it's not having much effect. It's
It's
chipping
so
away.
funny because I listen to this, and you're right because I'm like, oh, these bass runs are great, and to
Yeah.
me they're sticking out big time. And it's funny to hear you say you had to like sift through them to even find them, and when you did, you're like, nice try, kiddo, but you should have been turned up or a little bit. You know,
Yeah.
I'm thinking he sounds like the bass runs in Beach Goons. You know what I mean? Like when we saw the big Richard Ayoade or whatever,
Yeah.
like his bass runs were really clear and they're fun.
Yeah.
To me, there's no difference. That's
I thought you'd say that, but there really is. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Audiophiles, you bastard. My name's John, and his name is Andy.
It is.
My brother knows Karl Marx. He met him eating mushrooms in the People's Park. He said, "What do you think about my manifesto? I like a manifesto. Put it to the testo." More on that later. But first, we have a track to listen to, selected by Andy. Andy, what have you got for us today?
I've got an outfit that I'm quite sure you haven't heard of, if for no other reason than they're pretty new. But they're called Good Flying Birds. And I'm Does that ring any bells? I assume not, right?
No, no.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Well, the track by them that I want you to check out is one called Wallace. So, like the name. So there you go. Good Flying Birds. The track is Wallace. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. So why don't you go give it a spin and come back and let us all know what you think.
Excellent. I'm really enjoying this. There's something very nostalgic about this for me, anyway. Um, Not wanting to sort of like diss this in any way, but it does have those production values of those sort of indie bands from the 80s. I used to get, I'm feeling nostalgic now. You used to get cassettes from labels which had like six or eight of their best tracks of the best bands on them. And with it would be a catalogue of photocopied pages stapled together, and you could order. Oh yeah, superb. And there's some awful shit in there, and some great stuff as well. This sounds great. It does firmly sort of sound that sort of late 80s, early 90s, probably. Um, yeah, it sounds like American, definitely, but influenced by British sound. There's a bit of like Sarah Records in there, I think, and other stuff as well, but sort of pumped up a little bit. Um, yeah, it sounds really nice. I like the way they're trying to do sort of little like, picked flourishes on the guitar at the end of a phrase towards the end of this intro. Um, it still sounds a little bit sort of weedy, but really charming. And then they sort of furiously strum, like, sort of nerds trying to build up muscles in the gym. It sounds brilliant. And then the voice just came in there and it sounds suitably sort of thin. It was exactly what I was expecting, to be honest with you. Great stuff. it's a really short song, but that's really hooky. The way the guitar descends down and you go, oh, really nice. Yeah, that was great. That was great. Drumming was like phonetic and just there. Which all fits. Don't get me wrong. It sounds like I'm um taking the piss or picking fault with this. But these little quirks are the things I love about this sort of music. So yeah, these are all plus points for me. The bass was actually trying to do some really interesting runs, but it kind of got lost in the mix for me. I'm sure Andy, with his bass forward ears, would pick it out, but I think 95% of people wouldn't. It sounded decent. But yeah, I really love the sort of the whole aesthetic feel of it. I thought it said in the lyrics, I caught one couple of bits I scribbled down. There's something about even after they split up. Of course they split up. Of course they did. This is the fate of all these people that used to pen songs like this. But yeah, I've really, really enjoyed it. There was some twanging towards the end as they finished singing for that last 30 seconds. It sounded like a bit of like almost early Teenage Fan Club and something else, which will come to me, like another version of it. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed this. This is great. We need to know more about this. So these good flying birds, and why the hell was it called Wallace? And this is a personal thing. So we definitely need to find out more. Let's go back and get all the goods with Andy.
All right, John, you're back from Wallace. What did you make of it?
Wallace. Wallace. The first thing that springs to mind is Wallace Shawn. Inconceivable. You keep using that word. Do not think it means what you think it means. Um, bless him. Uh, God knows why they call this Wallace, but anyway. So a rat-a-tat-tat, and we're away. The song begins already freewheeling halfway down the hill in an old jalopy that doesn't have a functioning handbrake. Um, Now you'll know from my love of that period that this sounds production-wise, it really reminded me of like old samplers you used to get from indie records on cassette. Um, and it would be like 6 or 8 of their best tracks um, from bands that you never heard of. And with it, I was getting really nostalgic listening to this. With it, you would get a photocopied like catalog, which has been hand stapled together, and it's all these photocopies and really bad pictures that have been photocopied like so many times that you just got lumps. You're better off using Braille to understand what a picture is. And you can just get a feeling that these bands only ever played in each other's living rooms on rotation. And if they ever left houses to go out into the public, they would shrivel and die in the sunlight. Um, Heady days, heady days. So yes, the musical content firmly places this song in that sort of period of post-jangle, extra strum indie, which was kind of like 80s Britain, early 90s. Um, and then we get with the mumbled vocals skimming over the guitars. It's something that makes me think that this is American, but with a lot of British influences. Um, and the song itself like sounds like something from Sarah Records that had been pumped up on Lucasade. Uh, Trying to be all mannish. So yeah, I really like the way this kicks off. It's quite a short song. It's quite a simple song, but
Yeah.
I really like the way the guitars progress very simply, but very infectiously. It kind of hooked me from about 20 seconds onwards, this song.
That
So
sounds
there's
nice.
also a lovely sort of tinniness to the guitar,
Mhm.
very my first amp feel at the end of the intro where they try and like pick a few notes. And it's just great. You know, as I was saying in the reaction, it sounds like I'm taking the piss or picking fault with all these little bits, but these imperfections are the very things I love about
Yeah.
this, genre and series. So yeah, it's not at all. It comes from a good place. So yeah, and then after that sort of tinny sort of picking, they strum furiously, um, like some nerd at the gym trying to find muscular form before the vocals kick in. And the vocals do kick in, and they are kind of thin and weedy and perhaps a bit complaining. Perfect, in fact. I'd
Boxes being
expect
checked left and right.
I would expect nothing less. I catch on the first like few bits something like about writing you letters that I never seem to. I thought it was send, but I think it's pen because that's a bit even more sort of wimpy to say that. It's like some Midwest college kids have done their thing with a British track, and even something like a Bodine's track. Now, I don't think we've talked about this band Bodines. There's two bands called the Bodines, by the way, which I found out to my cost. There's the wonderful Manchester's second finest jangle pop band that are very cold and underground called Bodines. That's spelled INES at the end. Then there's this American band that's spelled EANS at the end, and they're a very different proposition. And yeah, I bought one of their albums by accident. Oh god. Um. Anyway, but this has an identity and charm of its own because it's gone through that filter.
Hmm.
So we get a couple of lines of indiscernible mumbling, followed by some lovely ooh vocalizing. And I really like the descending guitar motif as they pull out of each verse. Um, there isn't a chorus to this, I don't think, unless it's that descending guitar is the chorus. I then catch lyrics that actually, for a moment, it's like the clouds part, and you can actually recognize these things as words, not just sort of like mutterings that have gone through the Rosetta Stone. And he says something about even after we split up, I know you'd be true to yourself and you go far. Of course they've split up. Textbook, Sarah Records. Um, I refer you to Exhibit B, which is the song I'm in love with a girl who doesn't know I exist by another sunny day, of which the lyrics would be, I could speak to you, you can speak to me. Oh, but it will never happen. What will be, will be. So I'll just lie and I'll dream the chances I missed. I'm in love with a girl who doesn't know I exist. Universal, universal. So yeah, this is great stuff. All the while there's bless it, the drums are fairly like functional and frenetic and do their job, which is fine. Bass player, bless him, I said in the reaction, he's doing these runs and stuff, but it's kind of lost in the gravy a lot. I say someone like yourself with these bass forward ears would pick it out, but a lot of people wouldn't. He's doing his best, bless him, but it's not having much effect. It's
It's
chipping
so
away.
funny because I listened to this, and you're right because I'm like, oh, these bass runs are great, and to
Yeah.
me they're sticking out big time. And it's funny to hear you say you had to like sift through them to even find them, and when you did, you're like, nice try, kiddo, but you should have been turned up or a little bit. You know,
Yeah.
I'm thinking he sounds like the bass runs in Beach Goons. You know what I mean? Like when we saw the big Richard Ayoade or whatever,
Yeah.
like his bass runs were really clear and they're fun.
Yeah.
To me, there's no difference. That's
I thought you'd say that, but there really is. So then we get to it's weird. So these verses are coming, I think, in couplets, and there's about five of them. no chorus, discernible chorus. And then we had this little bit of a guitar. It's not even a guitar solo. There's a little cameo bit towards the end with this lovely sort of twanging. That reminded me of really early Teenage Fan Club, before they sort of found their big star sort of groove. Really nice as well. And the final little twangy bit when it ends, the sort of arpeggio, that sort of chord, it sounds flat. It was really nice at the end. And then we end with some tape hiss, which is lovely as well. Really, so yeah, really enjoyed this. I could tell, as you said, that this is a modern rendition of something from the past, which I had actually no problem with. Yeah, and I really like the sort of flavor they brought to this. It was hugely enjoyable and ticked loads of nostalgia boxes for me.
Awesome, man. I'm really glad you like this one. Then I'm gonna have to like expedite maybe another track or two off of this before you go check it out because I'm sure you already interested. I would just say like you should. You definitely should. This is a very John sound to this that I think you'll like. Definitely falls in our like in the middle of our Venn diagram that we often talk about here. So glad you enjoyed it. Glad you liked it as much as I hoped and thought that you would. Yeah, Good Flying Birds. They are a jangly, noisy guitar pop group from Indiana. The band's lineup consists of founding member Kellen Baker, songwriter, vocalist, and multi-instrumentalist. Really, it's his thing, you know what I mean? This is his brainchild. Uh, Susie Slaughter, vocals and tambourine. Ari Bales on drums. Luke Corvette, man, what a name, Luke Corvette, on guitar, and Jake Kelly on bass. What was dude's name? Daytona from What We Do in the Dark or whatever, like the Jackie Daytona or whatever his faux name was when he wanted to go human. That's what Luke Corvette reminds me of. I'm just a normal bartender in Pennsylvania, Luke Corvette. It
It
be
was, you get the Douglas Adams version of that, which is Ford Prefect. Um,
the project began in 2020. Well, I'll say the beginnings of this began in December of 2023 with a collection of 4-track cassette recordings and stop motion videos uploaded to YouTube under the name Tallulah God, along with a chaotic and colorful GIF infested website. Over the following months, songs were uploaded fairly frequently, eventually catching the attention of influential punk and DIY label operator Martin Meyer, or perhaps it's Mayer, of Rotten Apple and Inscrutable Records, who started the year by releasing two Good Flying Birds related releases, Tallulah's Tape, which collects 16 tracks recorded at home between 2021 and 24, and Star Charms, a compilation featuring 3 new Good Flying Bird songs, as well as new material from the band Soup Activists and Answering Machines. The band is now signed with Car Park Records, who re-released Tallulah's Tape in October of 2025, not quite a year after its initial release on Rotten Apple Records in January at the beginning of 2025. So yeah, I didn't hear these guys until sometime between Thanksgiving and Christmas. I think it was the first time that they came on my radar, and I was like, okay, these are gonna have to be like an early 2026 feature on the channel because I think they got a lot of what John is looking for. Ben Salmon of Pace Magazine reviewed the re-release, calling it one of the best albums of 2025, adding, Tallulah's Tape actually compiles all of Baker's scattered demos, recorded at home between 2021 and 24. According to Rotten Apple, which makes it an unfiltered look at this exceptional ability to write melodies and guitar riffs catchy enough to cut through the lo-fi atmosphere. The roller coaster chord progression of opening track Down on Me, for example, is instantly bop-alongable, while Dynamic packs 4 different killer hooks into 3 minutes. You can hear the twin barbed guitars of I Care for You, the sweetly psychedelic twee of Every Day is Another, the driving paisley churn of Eric's Eyes, and even the album's interstitial pieces, a drum break with animal sounds, a noisy guitar freakout, and a 6-second sound experiment. Elsewhere, Baker cranks things up to legit punk levels on Wallace, tears through some impressive drum parts in Fall Away, and guitar licks in Glass, and unspools a lovely instrumental GFB that sounds like it could be the theme music for some small budget TV show about sweater vested police detectives with a stack of Chick Factory magazines at home. The album's final track, Last Straw, stretches out to nearly 5 minutes long as Baker returns to lyrical themes that recur throughout Tallulah's tape, falling for someone, falling out, and falling apart, and not always in that order. Over at online publication Rosie Overdrive, they offer up the following. The most obvious pop hits on the record, Down on Me and I Care for You, sound like the band recorded them as quickly as possible before the jangly inspiration faded, while the more full on rockers, Wallace, Fall Away, demonstrate their ability to step on the gas pedal when they want to. Even as there's a staggeringly high hit rate here, Tallulah's tape is an offbeat and chaotic listen nonetheless. There's a goofiness that, for the most part, is kept to brief interlude tracks and between song transitions. There's some drum machine false starts and red herrings and odd dialogue. But there are a few moments where the Good Flying Birds display an aptitude for incorporating it into their songs, too. I don't want to overstate any difficulty. Excellent pop songs are never out of reach throughout Tallulah's tape. Whether it's those opening jangle pop smashes, the back of one's hand automatic excellence that is Eric's Eyes or art rock, some sneaky brilliance hidden towards the end of the tape. And Jack Masucci of uglyhug.com reviewed the album and posited the Indianapolis Music Collective, formerly known as Tallulah God, offers 45 minutes of beautiful twee pop songs on their debut record. The record, Tallulah's Tape, is a collection of 16 warm 4-track demos recorded by the band over a 4-year period. Despite the record finding its origins in scattered demos, it never feels desultory. Every song and every non sequitur feels perfectly necessary and is sewn in a way that simply makes sense. Each part fits the Technicolor whole. It exists as a series of frames that, when put together, create a coherent and honest picture. And I should note that over at Album of the Year, it sits at a critic score of 78, but a user score of 74, which is usually the other way where the user score exceeds the critic score. But yeah, it's the opposite here. But nonetheless,
So
78
the
for,
fans are slight dickheads.
yes,
Fair
a little
enough.
bit, a little bit. Oh, but Sam Cohen from college radio station WRSU 88.7 FM, which is, I believe, out of Rutgers up there in New Jersey, interviewed Kellen Baker, and during it, he inquired about his influences and inspirations, asking, other than the Velvet Underground and your namesake, Guided by Voices, what are the band's biggest inspirations? And he says, my first real, go ahead.
I'll just guess a couple of things here.
You can.
So you said that their previous band name was Tula God.
Yeah.
So that's very, very close to there was an indie sort of jangly twee band called Tallulah Gosh, which was inspired by the pastels and postcard records and stuff like that. So I would suggest that that is a part of their makeup.
I would agree with you, and this quote from him doesn't account for that, but there have been other write-ups, and in some of the even the write-ups that I pulled from this, there was like, I don't think it's any coincidence that, and then said what you just said. So I do think that there's some merit to that assumption that you've just made. But from the man himself, my first real band was a Beatles cover band. So that's always been the guiding light for me. I think that's everybody, even those who don't know it or want to admit it. And I've always really cared about a good tune more than anything else. I've always kind of struggled with music that is more aesthetically based. I love dance music and EDM now, but it kind of took me a while. I also love 80s music, My Bloody Valentine, the Jangle stuff, and honestly, Weezer, especially more recently. So let's get into these lyrics. Founded on the broken vows to write you letters that I never seem to pen. Walking through the fallen leaves across the Waldron Circle Hill around the bend. Hold my head up as I fall asleep while we speed down the highway in your car. Even after we split up, I knew you'd be true to yourself and you'd go far. So, which reads almost like a little poem more than it does an actual song, but it does have all of that melancholic, heartbreaky, oh woe is me sentiment that a lot of that shit had back in the day. But go on.
A lot of the, yeah, and you're right. And so a lot of that sort of late 80s jangly pop, Sarah Records, all that sort of stuff, was written by guys in their bedroom alone. And the guiding light would be, what would Morrissey write? And that's
Yes.
basically
Yeah.
it.
Exactly. Exactly. So David Glickman over at Channel Favorite Pitchfork, go ahead, John. It's been a minute. Wrote of this track, Wallace is jammed with so much staccato riffage and infectious energy, you'd never guess it's a breakup song. While we speed down the highway in your car, even after we split up, I knew you'd be true to yourself and you'd go far. Baker sings, letting the sting of young love and heartache serve as the eternal kindling for perfect pop, which sounds like the exact blueprint that you were just talking about. And again, from Ugly Hug, but this time from a different writer in a different article. This is from Eileen Centeno. She would write a pretty fair synopsis of the song in a pretty succinct way. Wallace reads like a postcard from a lost summer. And yes, it does. Some summer love that came and went, and now he's reflecting on it. But yeah, man, Good Flying Birds. It's something about the Midwest emo scene in this country that does a really good job of capturing in similar ways what was so big and so well captured in the early 80s and onward from over there in your neck of the woods. So yeah, our more introspective in their feelings demographic, at least from a statistical output over here, musically speaking, seems to be the Midwest. And here we have another classic example of a more modern version of some Midwest. Eh, it's not emo, but it's based in the same sentiment, right? Lyrically speaking, this obviously far more jangly indie DIY, which screams fucking John. So I'm really glad that you like this and that you enjoyed it as much as you did. We'll get some more of them on the channel in the future. So thanks for giving this a go, John. I appreciate your time, buddy.
Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Excellent, man. Excellent. Guys out there in the listening audience, please let us know down below what you thought of this, this album that's what, not even 6 months old at this point, I think. Uh, and the song off of it. If you've heard it before, please let us know your thoughts. If you'd like to hear more from it, please let us know. If there's other stuff, whether new or old, that's cut from a similar cloth that you'd like to hear on this channel, or even if it's not, feel free to shout it down in the description field below. And as long as one of us hasn't heard it, it will make it to a future Friday episode if you've got the patience. And hopefully, John and I will catch all y'all in growing numbers on the next installment of the Audiophiles. We'll see you later, guys.